All right, Geek Stackers, it has been a while, but we are back to talk about some things. All right, here we go. So, we recorded an episode about a week ago. And we had some major issues with audio.
It's been about a year since the last Geek Stack podcast.
Yeah, so now we're doing
things were a little decoupled.
Yeah, we're doing some in studio. So I don't know, where do you want to start? We could start with the news of the Nintendo Switch. We can start with Ultimate Spider-Man, Absolute Batman.
We can start with Nintendo Switch, but like most stuff with Nintendo, it's not much to talk about.
Okay, well,
there's some speculation. We think they're going to do good, but they could very well also screw themselves because they love to do that. That's Nintendo's bread and butter.
All right. So let's deal with which one you want to start with? Absolute Batman or Ultimate Spider-Man?
Absolute.
Okay.
Batman.
Absolute Batman. What are your initial thoughts barring issue number 4? We're
not gonna count issue number 4. Issue number 4 is a footnote.
We'll talk about why we're not counting issue number 4. It's pretty terrible. But
Absolute Batman antithesis everything that we like about Batman without even knowing it.
Okay. In what way?
Even though in most mainstream Batman stories, Bruce Wayne is this billionaire philanthropist playboy who has everything in the world, he is so anti-establishment that he takes the law into his own hands. And now, with this new working class Batman, he's able to antithesize that particular part of Batman more so than he could before.
Okay.
And I think that really shows, especially with the amount of brutality that this man has compared to the other Batmans. It's like Dark Knight Rises type of Batman. And bro is like 6'8". Like, bro is legitimately, I'm going to be honest, people probably know who Batman is. They see this 6'8" construction worker that's buff for no reason, walk around, they're like, that might be him.
It is definitely a different kind of Batman. I would say the first thing I noticed about Absolute Batman that I didn't realize I would like is the art. The art fits the story, and you don't realize how much the art fits the story until issue number 4.
Oh my god!
So for those who don't know, every now and again there'll be a comic book run where you have a writer, which primarily stays the same. I don't think there's been a writer switch mid-story ever, which that would make sense. But sometimes there are. I'm talking about in comic books. Sometimes there are artist switches for whatever reason. I don't remember. You might want to look it up. What was the artist that drew issue number 4? Issue number 4, the art was so jarring, I didn't read it. And the story, I'm sure it's good because it's still Snyder, right? So story's the same, it's good. But the art was so different from 1, 2, and 3, which is who Nick Dragotta. Mm-hmm. It is, when I tell you night and day, like it was hard for me to wrap my brain around what exactly they were going with for this.
So it was Walter. It was Gabriel Hernandez Walter.
Yeah. I've not seen anything else from Walter. Maybe there's some other things that he's done, and he's done very well. But I will say, speaking for myself, what I saw of Absolute Batman number 4, I was like, oh my word. Oh my days.
It wasn't that the art was bad. It just
didn't fit.
It's like the Ultimate X-Men, right? It just doesn't fit the characters at all. And you're kind of just sitting there and you're like, what just happened? It's like, I wouldn't say it's bad art. It's not good Batman art, right?
Yes.
Like
that's a good way to put it.
I think imagining the artists that made some stuff like Radiant Black or what was it, Nova, right? If they were doing the art for like Wolverine, it wouldn't make any sense. That art style would just look out of place.
Right. It doesn't fit. Yeah. Doesn't fit what we're used to for that character.
That's what I'm saying. So that's why I think it's more, because like I thought it was just for the flashbacks, and then I kept going, and I'm like, oh nah.
I tried to tell
They
you.
got my boy.
We-
There's this panel where Batman's in front of this semi truck, bro.
We talked about this because he hadn't seen it and I had already seen it. And when I saw the art, I was like, okay, I'm not purchasing this, because what I'll do is I'll go online and I'll see if I can find previews of a book, because books have deceived me before. When I saw panels from Absolute Batman #4, I was determined to not buy it. And the more panels I saw, I was like, oh yeah,
it
nah.
only got worse. And
Nah,
the
this is not
flashbacks,
good.
I thought they were only doing the art change for the flashbacks, but nah.
It was not it, which makes me wonder. And you brought this up. Maybe it was Nick Dragotta's schedule.
Yeah,
Maybe
a lot of people were saying that in the comments. Were like, Nick Dragotta's schedule with like how he was working that month and what other stuff he was working on probably didn't work out for doing the art.
Look, this is my recommendation.
Only have him on there, because
If you can't get Nick Dragotta, I'd rather just wait for the book. I'll wait another month for the book.
There were people in the comments that were like, "Yeah, honestly, the story was good, but this art was not it." Like, I don't. No offense to like little people. People were like being understanding to there. They weren't like hating. They were just like, "Look, no offense to Walter, but this was not it for Batman."
There's no doubt in my mind.
His work on Hellboy was pretty good.
Yeah,
but his art style fits Hellboy.
Right.
So
there's certain artists. Some artists can draw anything, and some artists just don't fit the style of a certain character.
So speaking of the style of a certain character, we got to talk about the biggest thing to hit the comic book industry since the Jim Lee X-Men.
I don't know if I'd say that.
I'm saying that. I don't care. I don't care. Fight me on it.
Do you know how much X-Men #1 sold?
You know how much Ultimate Spider-Man has sold?
How much? I'm getting ready to blow your mind.
I don't know.
That first issue.
Well, okay. Okay. So X-Men #1 actually broke some records, and I don't think anybody's beaten it since.
It's the highest selling individual comic book of all time. 8.9 million issues or something like that is in the 8 millions. And I want to say
it was 10 million.
It might be, but I know Ultimate Spider-Man #1 sold like 600,000 or something like that.
Yeah,
which is good for now.
Right, back in the day, if you were selling 600,000, you'd be failing.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I think that Jim Lee era, like 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, it was just a unique time in comic books. A very unique time. A unique moment of interest for some people, but I think so. I will say this: if we compare adjusting for comic book interest inflation,
I think comic book interest inflation should be adjusted for.
Right.
To be honest,
I would say that Ultimate Spider-Man is probably a really big deal. There are comic books that I think are bigger deals in the independent space just because of the impact, like Rook Exodus, which you haven't read yet.
No, not yet.
But Rook Exodus,
Alpha Core is pretty good too.
Goodness, Rook Exodus,
or something like an Invincible.
I haven't read Invincible, but I know its impact.
You gotta.
I know its impact. I know its impact.
Amazing.
I've heard people talk about it, and people have nothing but good things to say about it. So I'm completely confident that thing is actually very good.
So, Ultimate Spider-Man. I'm a forehead kiss whoever made that story. I'm gonna be honest. I think it was
Jonathan Hickman.
Jonathan Hickman always hits it out of the park, and he was the one who created the Maker, right?
I believe so. I don't know if I'd say he always hits it out the park, but
he has so many legendary stories.
He's consistent. Yeah, he's consistent.
Like he started the whole multiverse thing with the Fantastic Four and the Council of Reeds. Back in the day,
was that Hickman?
I'm pretty sure that was Hickman.
Yeah, look that. Fact check that. I'm not sure if that was him. I don't know if that was him. That might have been before Hickman came about, but I could be mistaken there.
Jonathan Hickman.
Oh, it was Hickman. I stand corrected.
I remember because that was the first time people started like utilizing. It was like back in like early 2000s, right? Where people started utilizing the whole multiverse thing. That's where the Maker came out of, and now everybody uses the whole multiverse thing to kind of do their thing.
Yeah, the multiverse is used a little too much
flippantly,
and I think it's used to fix bad stories instead of just
it's lazy writing.
Yeah, instead of just, hey, we got a bad story that we need to address.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Yeah, but Jonathan Hickman was the one who like kind of made the whole like the Council of Reeds that influenced the Council of Lois's and that new Superman show. It influenced the Council of Ricks and Rick and Morty. Like
Huh.
Jonathan Hickman's impact on the
Interesting.
comic book industry is pretty, like on the whole, entertainment industry as a whole is massive, right?
I didn't
So
realize that.
yeah. He actually created the maker. So I'm not surprised that Jonathan Hickman is pulling this out. He is one of them dudes. He's one of them dudes.
Okay.
He's like the Scott Snyder of the Marvel universe.
I'll give it to you.
But
I think what makes Ultimate Spider-Man such a monumental book is we the fans probably for the first time in history got the Spider-Man that we all want. I was trying to get that out because
yeah.
I think there's a lot of people that are interested in a lot of Spider-Man books, but what happens is you always have like, okay, but why didn't you give him this? Well, why didn't you give him that? Like you gave us X, Y, and
yeah,
Z.
there's been times where he's dated Mary Jane. There's been only one other time I could think of where he and Mary Jane got married and they had a kid. But it was like when they were trying to destroy the mutants and destroy people with superpowers, and it was like a whole thing.
Right.
And then it's like Peter Parker having a normal life
It's a
is
big
interesting.
deal.
I'm
It's
not
a
gonna
big
lie.
deal.
I'm eating it up. I'm eating up the Christmas. Oh man,
A lot of people were I'm not gonna say upset, but some people did not like the Christmas issue because there was no action.
Okay, so here's the thing. And then this happens in multiple types of media all the time, right? Whenever storytelling gets more into the abstract of like actually having character writing and telling the story through the actual characters in the medium, a lot of people, and I'm going to be honest, a lot of people who are more common denominator don't like it. And I'm going to give you another example. Vinland Saga. Great show. One of the best stories I've ever seen in my life. First season full of action. Second season is kind of like a culmination of everything that happened to that character in the first season and them growing. But there's no action, right? But it's probably a better story. But people stopped watching. And I called it before that season came out. I'm like, yeah, as soon as the next season comes out, people are going to drop it. Like some people are going to enjoy it. Some people are going to be like,
So you
not
think
enough action.
you think people don't have an appetite for actual storytelling?
I think someone said, and I think there was like a paper that came out a while back that said the average IQ in America is like 96. And I didn't really believe it until I started going out into the world and talking to people. And I'm not saying I have the highest IQ, but I think there's a lot of people who just want their story spoon fed to them, right? And I think that's the problem where you have like great books that people who are like actual comic book fans that read the stories because like, oh, this is a good story instead of just, ooh, look at this shiny picture, look at this panel going on here, and they are like, oh man, they're not spoon feeding the story to me. I have to look at the subtext and pretext through what's going on. I have to like figure out the characters' motivations through their actions and not them just saying it in their internal monologue. Oh my goodness. And I think that's the big issue. I'm going to be honest.
So you think because people don't want to think, that's the issue with most modern comic books?
I think that's the issue with most modern media.
You know what? I'll give that to you. I'll give that to you because I'm noticing more and more there's shows that I watch. Me and you talked about what's the show we just saw? Silo. Silo is a slow show to start, but their character and world building. If you've never read Hugh Howey's novels, which I never read, I'm probably going to buy them as a result of this show. I don't know anything about this universe he built. So you have to introduce me to this whole world that I do not know. You can't do that by just jumping right into the fray and going, okay, roam around in this world you know nothing about. And for me, what Jonathan Hickman has done, and I've covered this on my Thinking podcast, what he has done, he has made you so invested in each individual character that you don't care if there's no action.
Yeah.
Because you're interested in what's going on in their stories.
Something else I think that's interesting is seeing the different dynamics that we will never able to see and will never be able to see in the regular mainstream Spider-Man comic books. Like Peter Parker and J. Jonah Jameson being friends. Him being more of like a second father figure instead of like another antagonist.
Like an uncle, yeah.
Right.
I like it.
And like the scenes that he has with Peter's son, where he kind of like, he sees Peter's son as kind of like him when he was younger. And the relationship that they have where he kind of like understands him.
Right.
And Peter's son understands Jameson.
Right.
Where it's like, okay, this is interesting. I like you get a closer
Agreed.
glimpse into Jameson as a character. It's not that you don't in the original Spider-Man comic books, but it's like he's not really humanized as much as he is in this one.
No, I agree.
And I'm like, oh,
I
that's cool.
agree.
And then Uncle
'Cause
Ben being alive, crazy, crazy.
Uncle Ben being alive is probably one of the single most, I don't know if I want to say the single most important things about this book, but it might be the
Hey, can you
linchpin
pause it
upon
right quick?
which, what'd you say?
Pause it right quick.
Okay, yeah. We're going on a little break. Okay, so now we are really back. I was recording just now and our audio went silent, but we're back for real this
Womp
time.
womp.
Okay,
Hello.
so we're talking about J. Jonah Jameson,
Uncle Ben being alive.
Uncle Ben being
And you
alive.
say that changes the story.
I think that is the linchpin for the entire book. For me, this gives this Spider-Man a completely different feel. I don't know if it feels this way to you, but to me, it feels like Spider-Man has had something unlocked that has been suppressed for the entirety of his, career as a hero, because when Uncle Ben dies, Aunt May can't really pick up the mantle like Uncle Ben can for Aunt May dying. And Aunt May dies in this one in a way that is tragic, but it's Peter's older when this
Right.
happens.
Yeah, so he's
So-
able to grow up with both of them.
Right.
To where he
right.
actually has the experience of having kind of like, even though they're not his parents, like a parent-like thing.
Right.
Well, and I think another way this changes the story is Peter in the original Spider-Man comic books oftentimes will choose his life as a superhero over his family, over his relationships with friends, right? Because he was bitten early
That's
on
true.
in his formative years. So that's the type of reality that he's used to kind of having his mindset in.
That's
When in
sweet.
this one, it's the opposite. And I think it's interesting because it's like he values the time he spends with his family and his family more than anything, even being a superhero. Like
Agreed.
whenever he was gonna tell Mary Jane, it seemed like he was contemplating maybe not doing it another if she wasn't rocking with it.
Yeah, it definitely.
And
That
it's-
definitely seemed like the case. His kids being on board, for me, that adds another dynamic, them knowing.
Yeah.
Now, also what it adds, and I've brought this up before, and this is my fear, just because I know how writers do for shock content. Jonathan Hickman, you'll probably never watch this video. My plea to you is do not kill Spider-Man's family. Don't kill his son. Don't kill his daughter. Don't kill Uncle Ben. Don't kill his wife.
I think Uncle Ben might die though.
Oh my goodness,
Because
man.
of the story he wrote about Kingpin.
Yeah.
I think either the maker's going to take
Yeah.
him out, or the maker, like the people who are in charge of the
Yeah.
Eurasian front, are going to be like,
I
"Hey,
just
get this man up out of here."
I just don't want it to happen. I don't want it to
Hey,
happen.
man. But it's.
I will understand if it does. I
Yeah.
will understand if it does.
But it is so much in this story that's because it's like we have Peter Parker, but it's a different Peter Parker than we're used to seeing, right?
Yes.
Like, obviously, he still has his jokes and his quips, even when he's Spider-Man, even when he's not
does.
Spider-Man. But he's like a grown adult that understands the value of taking care of his family above everything else, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's like, it's not that he didn't
Absolutely.
have these things before, because you have the whole thing where Kingpin calls a head out on Aunt May, and then he beats him up in the prison and says, "If she doesn't live, neither do you," and he walks out, right?
Yeah.
But it seems like he's more of like a father and a husband in this one. And we've never seen that. Like, we've kind of seen it in like that one story I was talking about where he has like his daughter and they're like running away from people who are trying to give people powers. But I don't think we've ever seen a story where Spider-Man is able to have a normal life. However, though, you start to see how this weighs on him a little bit, because he's like, in the beginning, he's like, I feel like my life is meant for something more, but I just don't know why. It feels like something is missing. And
Yes.
it's like, it's that part of him that was always supposed to be Spider-Man.
Right.
And that's
He knew
part
it.
of the reason why he's probably at the top of the maker's list.
Ooh, that's a good
Because
that's a good point.
Spider-Man is the type of hero where you see in multiple situations where like someone like Captain America, he has the ability to inspire the people around
He
him.
rises to the occasion. So
Exactly.
you want him to definitely not be around. That's a good point that I did not think about.
Mhm.
I wonder with the Makers Council. So I'm trying to remember, it was one of the books early on in this
Was the
iteration
Nick
of the
Fury
Ultimate,
comic book?
not that one. This was one with the Avengers, but Doom was with them. So what I wonder, because if I'm not mistaken, now my memory on this is is jumbled because I got away from comic books for many years, got back in, got myself caught up a little bit, but I believe in this iteration of the Secret War, that's where the Maker was created. Am I correct in that? At the
I
end
don't know.
of the Secret War, because I know it was Reed that had a battle with God Emperor Doom, and I think that's where the Maker was born out of. I could be mistaken on all of that, so take that with a grain of salt. The point I'm making is I wonder if the battle at the end is going to be him and Doom.
It depends because
That's
the
what I'm
thing is,
wondering.
it depends on which Doom it is. Because it could be Sorcerer Supreme Doom. It could be what is it called?
Yeah, I don't know
Howard
which.
Cosmic Doom.
Yeah, I don't know which version of Doom this is in this universe, but whatever Hickman does, it seems like Hickman has been able to stick the landing. Now, of course, I think with a lot of the Ultimate books, you have several writers working on different things and different artists. But with that said, I think Hickman has the helm as far as the Spider-Man's the leading story. Let's keep it real. This is
Yeah.
Spider-Man is the
Well, he has
ultimate.
the most issues out right now for the Ultimate Universe.
I don't know. I think Black Panther. I think Ultimate Black
Black
Panther
Panther.
has a bunch. I'm pretty sure because I know I have issue number 8, and I don't know what issue they're on after that. But I think they're on. I think they're high up there. Like I said, don't quote me
I
on that.
think
Let's see. You
you might be
checking?
right. Yeah, I'm checking right now. I think they're.
Ultimate.
Oh yeah, they're 13.
Yeah,
They have the same amount. I think they
yeah,
started at the same time.
yeah. They're running neck and neck. And Ultimate, I have not kept up with Ultimate Black Panther like I have with Ultimate Spider-Man, but I can tell you, I can confirm that Ultimate Black Panther is a good book. It is a good book, hands down. And you said you started reading that Ultimate Wolverine, right? You started that issue.
Dog. It's good. It's good. I like from the first panel, I'm like, oh, hold on. Because the comic book that I read before with Nick Fury, where he's like a clone,
Yeah.
right? It kind of leads into Ultimate
Ultimate
Wolverine
Wolverine.
#1.
Yep.
So I was like, okay, I was already anticipating what it was gonna look like. I read the book. I'm like, nah, this is actually kind of cold.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of cold.
They do a good job. I
Yeah.
I think Marvel, somebody said this. It might have been Thinking Critical. I think he had a stream maybe a few days ago. It might have been somebody else, but somebody brought up in the geek space, Marvel needs a complete reset. And I agree. I agree. I think the Ultimate Universe is their opportunity to do this because they need to rein in the number of books
So
that they're running concurrently.
I don't know. I think a lot of like legacy comic book media companies, like, well, the two big ones, right? Marvel and DC, have an inability to keep a concise continuity.
You think so?
I mean, DC's trying to, where they're saying, okay, Rebirth or what's after Rebirth, like everything is canon.
All In, their new All In
Yeah.
initiative, their absolute books.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay.
It's gonna be hard.
Now the absolute universe is like akin to like the Ultimate Universe.
It
in
is.
Marvel.
It is.
I think it's like darker.
I think that was DC's answer. They couldn't just let Marvel go untested with Ultimate Universe and not
Yeah.
do anything. They had to offer some kind of answer, and I think that Absolute Universe was their answer. And look, Absolute Batman is killing it as far as story. It's killing it. Now we gonna act
Talk
like
about that art.
yeah, we gonna act like number 4.
Man,
number
get
4
Greg
is gonna
Capullo on that. Forget about all these. Get
Well,
Greg Capullo
Greg
on that.
Capullo is working on
Was it Wonder Woman?
No, Wolverine Revenge.
Oh,
Which okay, so oh man, I find myself disagreeing with many people in the, let's say, the critical comic book space, which I would consider myself in. Those of us who lean conservative, we recognize that comic books have been destroyed by wokeness. That's just a fact. You can debate that, you can argue that they have been destroyed by wokeness. But I think we have been so hypersensitive to that now that we give no room anymore.
It's an overcorrection.
Yeah, I think so, because again, listening to Thinking Critical, look, I'm going to tell you, if you're in the conservative space and you want honest opinions that are 99.9% of the time, but the dude is spot on. Thinking Critical, I think he has the best channel. Sometimes I disagree with him. He says ultimate, or not ultimate, I'm saying ultimate. He's saying Wolverine Revenge. I don't know if he said the whole run is trash or number 4 is trash, which I read number 4 and I was like, yo, but this is not that bad. Now, it's not like mind-blowing great, but I'm like, this is actually a decent and fun book to read.
See, this is how I feel about Dark Knights of Steel, but because it's
No,
not 100% drawn by Jim
No,
Lee,
no,
not
look,
rocking with it.
I might read Dark Knights of Steel and I might enjoy it. The art just didn't have, is like, I don't like seeing cartoon art in comic books. That's a big stick for me. It's just a personal thing. I've never liked that. You know, there's a lot of comic books that come out that have the cartoon style art, and I'm just, that just doesn't do it for me. I like more detail in my comic book art. That's one of the things I enjoy. When you see those splash panels and there's like detail all over the place and you can pick out everything.
There's a few panels like that.
There is. I 100%. You're 100% right. And I might read it. I'm sure it's a very good story. It's hard for me though to follow up Dark Knight's Metal. Knight's Metal is
the amount of fumbles they had with like the nth metal creatures and universe stuff that was going on. Was great.
They did.
Damage, canceling damage.
And
maybe they just didn't have enough people buying it, but they didn't really promote it all that much either.
They didn't. It probably wasn't selling. I'm sure that's one of the reasons they canceled it. It wasn't selling. And it was, a lot of people saw it. It was a Hulk knockoff. Yeah. But look, there's so many knockoffs of characters in different universes.
Deadpool.
Yeah, Deadpool. Come on. I mean, that happens all the time. Wade Wilson. Come on now. You couldn't have made that more obvious. But anyway, that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day. Issue 13 of Ultimate Spider-Man.
Son, where he's given the 1-2 to the Velociraptor. Nah.
Yeah.
Look, if it was any comic book that should be made into an animated movie that has like DC animation level animation, it's Ultimate Spider-Man. I would be watching that every day, all day. But instead, we getting the one Spider-Man show.
Yeah, and it might be good. I'm not gonna
be good.
Yeah, I'm not gonna write it off just yet.
I'm writing it off.
Yeah.
I'm betting you $4 billion.
He's like, it's not gonna be good. Yeah, it's gonna be terrible.
It's gonna get 5 viewers.
Hey, and in lighter news, Halo Season 3 canceled. That's good. Yeah, got that.
In less lighter news, instead of making a new Halo game, they're gonna be remaking the Halo game starting from 1.
Really?
Yep.
I didn't hear that news.
Yep.
Please elaborate.
So they're going to be kind of keeping the same story, but might maybe changing it, adding in a few things, and changing gameplay. But it's going to be rough. And they're going to start from 1, and then 2, and then 3. And I'm already telling you, it's not going to go well.
So they're so hard pressed. Yeah, they're so hard pressed that they've destroyed the story.
They've written themselves into a freaking corner.
Yeah, that they can't create a new game.
Because it's like, first you have what was going on with Cortana, and they quickly wrote that off screen, first of all. And then they killed a bunch of characters they introduced in Halo 5 off screen, second of all, right? And then the story they leave you with at the end of Halo 5 or Halo Infinite is like, oh, well, there's this other alien force that predates the precursors that weren't killed during the Halo blast because of some type of thing they have.
So here's the thing, the issue I always have with a lot of these companies, and maybe this is just something I wonder. Maybe there's a reason they don't do it. Why not just apologize to the fans? We screwed up. We're gonna start from Halo 3 and continue that story. We messed up after that. Everything after that, we're not just gonna disregard those games. They happen, but we're gonna start over.
They're not smart enough to do that.
Yeah, there's a lot of companies that can just easily do that. I
really think the upper management of Microsoft specifically and Halo Studios don't know what they're doing.
This is where Nintendo wins, right? As much as I am not going to like the power of the Switch 2, I'm not. I'm just going to go ahead and say
the game's finna hit.
Nintendo
Them
always
games
does a
finna
good
hit.
job with
Them
their
games
first party
finna
games.
hit.
They don't miss. They
Them
they
games
don't miss
finna
with their
hit.
first party games. They strike every time. They know exactly what to
Well,
make,
you
how to
know what
make
their
it.
development cycle is like, right?
No,
So you know how like certain games will have due dates where they have to be done, stuff like that?
right,
And they'll be like, okay, this game's releasing this time, so you have to have it done by this time.
right.
What Nintendo does is they're like, hey, you're making this game. Let us know when you're almost done with it, and we'll start like rolling stuff out for when it's gonna release. So it's a more
That's a very
sustainable
smart way.
development cycle.
Yeah, that's a
Instead
very
of being
smart
like,
way.
this has to be done at this time, it's like
Yeah,
when you
because
get
we
done with the
said
game,
right.
you get done with it. That's why a game like Breath of the Wild or even Tears of the Kingdom was so expansive and had so much in it.
Right.
Because they were able to drop a complete game, which Western companies can't do to save their lives. They have a budget bigger than was it Infinity War, and they still can't drop a complete game.
That's astonishing. That's
It's ridiculous.
there's no excuse for that.
The amount
There's no
of
excuse
the
for
amount
that.
of bloat in the game industry is actually like frying my brain because they will have these giant budgets of like $40 million plus and make a stinker, and then there'll be some games that have like a budget of like maybe 2 to 3 million, and they be cleaning up.
That's horrendous. I don't understand how you dump so much money into something like that and you can't
It's like the
produce.
government's making these games.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. That's what it feels like.
He's spending a bunch of money on nothing.
That's what it
Like
feels
when
like.
I heard the budget and the amount of people that worked on Halo Infinite, I almost threw my computer.
Wow.
It was like over
I remember-
5,000 people.
I remember, yeah.
Almost $1 billion.
And it was mostly contractors, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was.
To me, that tells me you don't believe in your game. And here's why I say that. If you believed in your game, you would hire direct employees and make this game with the intention that this game is going to make us a boatload of money because it is good and the people are going to love it. But no, what do you get? What do you get with a lot of these games? What do you see? You see
Garbage.
these games created and you see people realizing, yo, this game is just not good. This IP, this whatever, it is just not good. This is not what I want. This is not what the people want. And I think that's
So
for me, that's the bigger
problem-
issue. It's not what the
problem
people
that
want.
lies in a company like Halo Studios or 343 Industries is there were people that came out that worked there
343
where they would
Industries, I like
literally like say ideas that were pretty good, and the upper level people tell them shut the f up and do your job.
Yeah. And this is why a lot of industries in the geek realm wind up dying because, and this is a phenomenon that a psychologist needs to study this. Something will start in the geek space that everyone loves unequivocally.
The
and what's
mainstream corporate money bag,
they just
garbage
destroy
people,
it every
and it's like
time.
nobody sees it coming. And
I don't
so
understand.
there's a company made by a former Bungie employee, called Certain Affinity. Everybody wants them to take over the mantle of making the Halo games. Like everybody.
I'll need to look into that company now. What are they making?
I don't know if I forget what they're making now. I think they helped fix the Master Chief Collection, actually.
Interesting. But see, I don't know if that will solve it because I'll tell you what I think will solve it. And this is something that most people probably don't want to hear when it comes to Halo. You know what'll solve Halo? Just dropping 343 or Halo Studios as they're now calling them. Maybe not dropping a studio, but I would fire everyone in charge. You are all fired.
So they did that.
Get me some programmers who love Halo.
They
Get me
fired a
some-
bunch of high level people. A bunch of high level people like were like left.
But
right?
see, then you got to replace.
But
them
the problem
with the right
is,
people.
and I think Marty O'Donnell brought up a good point where the people they replaced them with were former Microsoft people.
Yeah, see that
Microsoft
that
as a
doesn't work.
company is going to fail in the next 5 years.
In gaming?
In gaming, yes.
Gaming, yeah, I agree.
Yes, they're going to fail. Nobody's buying their games. Who's buying an Xbox? I know one person
And
who
you
got an Xbox.
and you know that because of the leaks that are coming out, the Master Chief Collection allegedly is coming to the Switch too.
Well, I don't know if that's gonna work because there's you know how Microsoft does.
I mean, we'll see. We'll
You know
see.
how Microsoft does with their software.
This is true, but all of the leaks that have been coming out about the Switch 2 so far have been spot on. Like these are not leaks; these are press releases at this point.
Yeah.
So I'm inclined to believe that maybe Microsoft sees the writing on the wall. Like, look,
No,
people.
no, they don't.
Yeah, you don't think
No,
so?
Dad, I'm telling you for a fact. I've been listening to industry professionals that work with these people, industry professionals that have worked in these companies.
For those who don't know, he's a
They
software
look.
developer. So
I am telling
this
you,
is his industry.
they couldn't see the writing on the wall. If it was shouting at them, throwing billions of dollars in their face, they don't care. They don't care. There's a slight chance that Bill 8 will get his head out of the money and finally start being like, you know what? Maybe we should run this company correctly. But it's very freaking low. Like you know me, I'm not the most pessimistic person, but then I'm kind of hoping they fail at this point. So they really learn their lesson.
So look, sometimes failure is the way some of these companies are actually able to bring it back. So we'll see. All right, we paused. You're going to notice a jump in the video, but we're back now. So we're talking about Microsoft 343 Halo Studios, I guess they're calling it now, which is
Garbage
laughable.
Studios.
Laughable to call yourself Halo.
That's creating the name of Halo by naming themselves.
Yeah, right? Yeah, I agree. I believe they want to do the right thing. They want to do the right thing.
I think the developers want to do the right thing.
They just don't know how to get to that doing the right thing.
No. You know what? I'm not going to buy that. I'm not going to buy that at all.
He's giving them no quarter.
No. There are hundreds of videos with millions of views expressing in great detail with notes and annotations in MLA format of how they could make a great Halo game. There's even examples in other Halo games.
Touche.
If they made a game with the exact same multiplayer system as Halo 3 and also a good story, that's $2 billion right there. Yeah, they're not going to do that.
And we've talked about before the lack of split screen that's
laughable.
That's unconscionable.
That's laughable.
There's no excuse.
You know what makes it even worse? The code is in there.
Yeah, there's no excuse for that. There's no excuse for why you couldn't make that work when they made it work years prior.
Tony Stark built this in a cave with rocks.
That's hilarious.
No, because it's look. I want to give good charity to, like, I'm never gonna blame developer for something that's like a project manager or producer problem.
Right. Yeah. They have no bearing on what the project manager allows or doesn't allow.
At the end of the day, it's their fault. I'm never gonna say the developers of Halo Infinite suck. No, the producers and project managers and C-suite executives of Halo Infinite suck.
So it's like I said, with any company in the geek space, this is what you run into. People in those offices
that don't know what goes on,
who make decisions. And it's like, hey, you realize that this geek thing has been making money for 30 years doing this.
Well, not the last 15.
Because, I'm just saying, I'm just being, using an example, not a direct correlation example, but just saying, for instance, this thing has been going on for 30 years making money. This is what the geeks want. But no, we're going to change this because of what? Who asked for this change? When I saw the Halo TV series, I said, who asked you to
Why am I seeing Master Chief's butt crack every other episode?
Yeah, like who asked you to put this stuff? And there was glimpses
the
of
first
greatness.
Scene in season 1.
When
the first scene in season 2.
Oh man.
The last scene in season in season 2? Last scene in Reach.
The Fall of Reach, when they covered the Fall of Reach. Yep. Yeah. That was good. It was good.
But no good. Armor.
Yeah. Less than to be desired. But what can you say when you have a room full of people that says we've not played the games, we've not read the books.
This is it.
Like you are asking yourself to fail.
I'm throw something through a brick wall.
Yeah, you're asking yourself to fail.
The amount of good adaptations we have for nerd content is getting smaller and smaller as time goes on.
It is.
Because a lot of people are just like, oh, well, we want to appeal to a mainstream audience. So let's change everything fundamentally that the people who like it would like. And then you have the mainstream audience not watching it. And the original audience is pissed off because you changed it. So now you have nobody watching your show.
So this is where I go with my glass half empty scenario. This is prime time for people this is prime time for creators who have new ideas to really, really shine. This is their time to shine. This is their time to, the floor is yours.
It's the moment in time where the old guard is falling.
Yeah.
And it's like the Death Star being destroyed for the second time.
Yeah, this is yours. Go. Like we've just hit the clock. You are at the free throw line. You have the opportunity. You don't even have to make all 3 free throws. All you got to make is
3
one.
free throws?
Or 2 free throws. I don't know what I'm thinking. You don't got to make, well, I guess if you shoot from the 3-point line, you don't got to make 2 free throws. All you got to make is one. Just make one. If an independent video game developer came out, you can throw a bunch of things at the wall. None of them might stick, but that one that does stick
with it.
You are going to make whatever indie developer creates the next craze is going to make buku money because people are starved.
Well,
this is why
this is with games like Helldivers.
Yeah, this exactly. Prime example. And this is why Nintendo can survive on underpowered systems. I've been thinking a lot about this because we had a conversation about the Switch 2 and my concerns with it being underpowered. And it's going to be underpowered. Look, let's
Nintendo's always underpowered.
Yeah, they're going to be underpowered. This is where Nintendo makes their bread and butter. Nobody cares when you make a fantastic game.
Yeah.
No.
I've never seen a Nintendo game. I've never seen Nintendo drop a half-baked game, drop a battle pass, and then drop DLC of the completed game 6 months later.
Yeah. Breath of the Wild, when it came out, it was blowing minds on an underpowered system.
And they had DLC for it that was like a whole different story.
Right.
And I'm like, oh my goodness.
Right.
This is actual DLC and not just the completed game that they didn't finish.
So where do you think PlayStation comes in this whole realm?
PlayStation's fine. PlayStation's going to be fine for a while because they have a lot of first-party games that are amazing, that will continue to be amazing throughout time. All of the Final Fantasy games, I don't know about Kingdom Hearts, but a lot of the Square Enix titles that are exclusive to PlayStation, including stuff like God of War, which isn't Square Enix, but it's PlayStation exclusive, sometimes PC exclusive. They have Insomniac with Ratchet and Clank, Spider-Man.
Ratchet and Clank is a good game.
But the recent Spider-Man game was kind of garbage. But
I heard people liked it.
No.
Really?
No. That's a whole... Hey.
Okay.
They messed up a lot. Like they had...
I haven't kept up with gaming like I used to.
So they had the wrong flag as a Puerto Rican flag as a way to kind of like, she's like, yeah, see, we like the Puerto Ricans. Because Miles is half Puerto Rican. They had the wrong flag in the game.
That's crazy.
And people hated it.
That's crazy.
And there's a bunch of stuff kind of placating to certain groups, which is like, okay, I mean, I guess that's all right.
Wow. So what's good in the gaming world? Give me something that's good. Helldivers, you brought that up. Marvel Rivals. Let's talk about that. That.
You know why Marvel Rivals works?
Go ahead.
It's owned by a Chinese company.
And they don't care nothing about what
they literally they said the Western idea of male and female and sex is horrible and we will not have it in any of our games.
Man, I ain't mad at them. Well,
they made it a point.
Maybe with my guy Trump being in office, that'll change. We'll see. We'll see if there's a cultural shift in the United States. We'll see. Who knows what's going to happen? But yeah, Marvel Rivals. And here's the thing.
They have kept their player base.
I have not played Marvel Rivals, but I've watched gameplay and I'm like, this looks like an incredibly fun game.
Let me explain to you how ridiculous this is.
Okay.
Right? As a free online game that's like a Battle Pass based game, usually there's a huge uptick in people who play it. There'll be like 200,000 people max playing the game. And then 2 to 3 months later, that number dips consistently.
Right.
Marvel Rivals has been out for 2 months. They have more players now than they did when they started. That never happens. That is like unprecedented.
Yeah, so they're increasing their player base.
Yes, their player base was like 400,000 consistently when it like first dropped in the beta or for season 0. Season 1 drops, it's up to 600,000.
So how much is this game?
It's free.
How much is, say that again?
It's free. You can buy the Battle Pass, and the Battle Pass isn't expensive. It's like $10.
And there's probably a lot of people, but see, look, this is...
And like, this shows that you can have a game with the Battle Pass that people want to buy without screwing them over completely.
And this proves my point that I've brought up to you several times. There's money to be made if you're not greedy. Now, I'm not one of these people that has a problem with companies making as much money as they can make. I don't have a problem with that. The problem comes in where greed overtakes actual good content.
And creativity.
Right.
Well,
Like,
and one of the things that makes Marvel Rivals specifically good is they're giving the fans what they want. When they dropped Mr. Fantastic, they dropped a maker skin as soon as he dropped. They didn't beat around the bush talking about some, well, we're thinking about dropping. No, they dropped it as soon as the character
Smart.
came out.
because
And
they
you
know
can
what
straight up
people
buy
want.
the skins.
They know
and,
what people want.
and it's cool. And look, I'm not going to lie. I bought a skin or two. I've never bought a skin in any game ever. I've never bought a battle pass outside of like X Defiant ever. And I'm like, you know what? Hey, they got me.
So for those like me that are uninitiated in to this Marvel Rivals game, I've seen gameplay. I don't know much about it. What's the storyline? Is it covering a certain Marvel story arc?
It's okay. So it's a hero shooter, which pretty much you have like a bunch of heroes you can choose from that have different abilities.
Right.
And there's different roles for each one. There's like support, there's DPS, and there's tank.
Okay.
Right. And you can choose between those three, and you can play them differently, and they have different abilities and different ults and stuff like that. And you go through like different like arena type battles, going back and forth, taking points or delivering payloads, whatever this and that.
Right.
And the story of it is Doctor Doom split up all the universes and like made them all into one where it's kind of like War World a little bit.
It's like Battle World. Like,
Yeah.
So this is like God Emperor Doom.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
And that's pretty much the storyline where we're all in different universes, and you can hear the different characters talk about it in their like voice lines to each other. It's pretty interesting.
Nice. So
It's
are
pretty
you battling through arenas? Are you battling through levels?
Through
Is there-
arenas, pretty much like
Okay.
maps where you like take control of certain things,
Right.
and like taking control of points and stuff like that, and like delivering a payload to the enemy spawn within a certain amount of time.
So
And
there's
it's-
no individual gameplay through some
No.
kind of story.
Now
It's just
they're talking about making a single player or a
See?
PVE, and you
This
know what?
is
You know what?
where
You know what's gonna?
this
It's
is-
crazy. There's another game, Overwatch. Same thing. They created the hero shooter genre, right?
right.
But they've been garbage for a while. They've been releasing garbage skins. How they balance all the players sucks, and they made roll queue, which made the queues for the game even longer.
Okay.
Marvel Rivals. As soon as you hit quick start, you're in a game.
Okay. There's
game.
no playing around.
And
It's
you
a
can
get right
choose
through it.
whatever role you want, which makes the teams more dynamic and the gameplay a lot cooler. And you could change your character mid-game.
Okay. Marvel Rivals
Like
for
they,
the win.
I'm gonna be honest. I've never been a fan of hero shooters. Dad, I've always hated them. I'm like, this looks stupid and horrible. This game, what drew me in was the Marvel characters, and then I was like, wait a minute, hold on. This game kind of fun. This game kind of fun.
I've been talking about building a gaming PC that may or may not happen.
Do it.
And you know, from me, that's a departure from how I enjoy playing games. It's always
He's been a console
console
guy for like 40
but
years.
My problem is PlayStation is good. PlayStation's good. I have no problems with it. Halo broke me because I was a Halo guy. I bought all the
I mean,
books.
I don't know if y'all can see, y'all can't see it, but there's a Master Chief helmet right
Halo
there.
was my game. Halo completely broke me, and I'm just like, okay, you consoles don't care nothing about gamers.
I still remember you waiting in line for the Master Chief Collection when it dropped. Us putting
Was
it,
that
us
was
putting
that
it-
the Master Chief collection that I waited
us
for?
putting it in the Xbox and not being able to play 3-player split screen.
Yeah,
And we were just sitting there like, what the?
yeah, because
You're joking.
me and my sons would play Halo. Like that was a thing. We enjoyed playing Halo. When there was no local split screen, I was like, what?
Well, so they had it for 2 players,
What?
but 3 was too much.
Yeah.
Too much for their
there's-
tessellation and 4K, 3 billion frames per second.
Yeah, and this is where again Nintendo wins. They're like, people want enjoyable games. I'll say this: games are at the point now where, do I like better graphics? Who doesn't like better graphics? But when I play my Switch, I got a Switch Lite. I play that and I'm like, this is enough. I don't need. Yes, of course, I don't have the graphics fidelity of a PlayStation.
You can't play
5.
that new. You can't play that new Batman.
Yeah,
port.
yeah,
It sucks.
yeah. A lot of there's some games that suck, but I think that has more to do with the people who ported the game than the game itself. Because there are other games like Wolfenstein. Wolfenstein is a masterpiece on the Switch Lite. I play that game and I'm like, how this game is performing on this system is beyond me. Like, I don't know how they did this. How they did Warframe, how that game performs on the
Oh
Switch
well,
at
Digital
all
Digital Extremes is probably one of
is
the best game developers out right now.
what's the game? Crisis 1, 2, and 3. The fact that that performs at all on the Switch. I'm not going to tell you it's the greatest, and I'm not going to tell you the frame rates are, fantastic.
So it
but
just locked at 30.
but
Yeah.
the game is enjoyable and it looks good. I say all that to make the point that graphics are good enough now. We've gotten to a point where graphics are good enough. If graphics never get better, that would not bother me. But what I do want is better games, better stories, better single player playthrough, better multiplayer. Like, give me some meat and potatoes.
Well, and the
Stop giving
problem
me
you're
this
running
empty
into,
stuff.
right? I watched a whole video on this. I was talking with my roommate about this too, where it's like games are so freaking big now because of all like the 4K graphics and the billions of pixels they load into each character, right?
Yeah,
Whereas like you have to get like a 2 terabyte hard drive to have more than 4 games on your computer.
that's ridiculous.
I'm like,
That's
this shouldn't be
ridiculous.
that big. And then
It
what
shouldn't.
kills me is a lot of Eastern developers don't do this. Their games look good and they're like maybe 20 gigs, most 50.
Yeah, how they get away with that?
Because
How are
they're
they doing
better at optimizing their games.
So optimization is the biggest
They
issue
don't.
for.
I'm telling, because I was literally talking about this with my friends. We all were like game developers, and like they don't optimize anything in game development anymore. You know what they optimize? The amount of money they make in the microtransactions. That's what they optimize.
That's unfortunate.
Everything else is like, oh, you don't have a 5080? That's tough.
How big is Marvel Rivals?
Man, I want to say like 40 gigs, maybe 60. It's not that much. It's not enough for me. It's not enough to note. But there are some games that are like 100 plus gigs. I'm like, goodness gracious.
Yeah,
there is
why?
no way.
Why? What reason? That always baffles me because there's some games I've seen that are small as far as the space they take up on a hard drive, but they look incredible. They look good, and I'm like, I don't understand why these other games are so huge. I do not understand.
54.
54 gigs.
54
How much is the newest Call of Duty size wise?
175 gigabytes.
That's crazy.
Let me make sure for
That's
sure.
crazy. That is crazy. I don't understand what is the need. Like I said, I'm not a programmer. He is. He's a game developer. They know more about this stuff than I do. I just play the games. and
Oh,
I
yeah.
haven't-
175 gigabytes.
Dang, that's crazy.
What kills me is there's something. One of the main things that makes it so big is the Warzone map, right?
Okay.
But there's a way they could make that map a lot smaller. Something that one of my old teachers showed me back in school is he did this thing with his game where he had the entire map be one texture that he just loaded in onto the space to make it smaller. And I'm like, oh, that's actually pretty cool. And it looked decent when he did that. And I'm like, they could literally do this exact same thing.
So they're going there. So from if I'm understanding you correctly, from what you're saying, these developers are going for such a high fidelity graphics marker that's really like, do we need that? That they're making the game bigger than it has to be.
Yes. That's
Like
exactly
that-
what's happening.
That's crazy.
That's exactly what's
Like,
happening. And you can have games that look good that aren't a bunch of gigabytes. Now, if you look at a game like the new Final Fantasy remake, that game is huge, but that game is also beautiful, right? But it's also fun. But it's also just a big game, story and content wise.
Right.
That makes sense. Call of Duty, you got multiplayer, a little bit of campaign, Warzone.
Yeah. Why is this? So
It
big?
doesn't justify the amount of space it's taking up. But if you like a game like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth or Remake, they're pretty big games, like 90 to 100 gigs, but they're also big games gameplay wise.
Right.
So it
It
tracks
warrants that. Right.
Exactly.
Right.
So
I'm going to
it's
be
like
playing this game for
a
endless amount
while,
of hours.
and it's
right.
going to be worth having that much space being taken up. And it's like, okay, that
So
makes sense.
so here's what this makes me think, because Breath of the Wild was on a cartridge. So is Tears of the Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
How big are those games? I can't remember. I cannot remember.
Like 12 gigs, maybe.
That's and of course, because I can already hear the collective heads popping. Yes, the graphics in these games aren't like, let's say, a Final Fantasy on the PlayStation 5. I get that, but that doesn't
14
doesn't take away from the fact that these Zelda games are gorgeous. Again, proving my point. that at what point do we get to the law of diminishing returns with graphics?
We've already got there.
And I
We've already
think
gotten there. I think
we've gotten there.
I think past the PlayStation Pro and the Xbox Scorpion, we were there.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think we're spending too much time focusing on, oh, it's 4K. We need 120,000K. Like, bro, chill.
And it kills me so much where I'm like, dude, I don't even care about Like, I've never cared about graphics. That has never been something.
Let's add a caveat. It's not that you don't care about graphics. It's that
I don't care that it looks like this is real life.
Right. We've gotten to a point where, okay, your graphics, they're better. Cool story, bro. Your game still sucks. Your game still sucks.
I go back and forth with my homie about this. Death Stranding, beautiful looking game. One of the best looking games to come out that year. Boring.
Yeah.
Boring. Gameplay's boring. Story's great. Gameplay's boring.
See, there was a time, and I would say in the recent past, I don't think it goes back that far. There was a time where I think these game developers understood I have to give the people something they enjoy. I think you could probably go all the way up to
2014.
What was the first iteration of Ratchet and Clank?
Oh, back in the 90s, I think. Maybe
was it
2000s? Because they used to share an office with the same people that made something else. I forget.
Yeah, because I don't think I can't remember. I remember looking at that first Ratchet and Clank, and I was very impressed. Like, I was very impressed. I thought this game right here,
2002. So yeah, 20 plus years ago.
Yeah. So that's not 20 years ago is a long time ago, but in the grand scheme of things, that's not like the early 90s, right? Like 91, 92, 93. 20 years ago, Ratchet and Clank comes out. That game had some incredible graphics. I remember seeing it, but it was also a fun game to play.
You know, other game had incredible graphics
that's a recent
almost
past.
20 years ago.
What's that?
Halo 3.
Yeah, Halo 3 had some incredible graphics, and it was fun to play.
The tessellation and shaders they had.
I think we've gotten to the point where people are spending more time focusing on how do we make graphics better instead of saying, okay, we've gotten to a point where we could probably pause on that focus for a little bit. Let's shift our focus to how do we make this game incredible for people to enjoy? How do we do that?
A company that threads that needle perfectly id Software.
Oh,
id Software.
Doom, right?
Doom Eternal was one of the most graphically intense games to come out when it came out, but it was also just ridiculously fun.
Yeah.
Same thing with Doom 2016.
Yeah, they created
the really graphics were like, because I met the graphic developer for his name is was it? Dang, I forgot his name. But he went to my school. But he was a cool dude. And he was talking about how, like, yeah, they really focus on, like, both graphics and gameplay. And there's a documentary on how they made the game. There's a dude called NoClip.
I believe I watched. I think you sent it.
He makes documentaries and he like talks to the game developers how they make the games. And even they were explaining, like, look, the first thing we were focused on was how fun the game could be. Right. And then we focused on everything else.
What a concept.
Even Breath of the Wild. They started the original engine in a 2D top-down sense to get all of the things and functions correct, and then they ported it over to 3D.
That's so smart. Make it fun. And then let's focus on how we can make these visuals enjoyable for the time. Look, my initial reaction to the Switch, was underpowered.
He wasn't rocking with it. He wasn't a Joy-Con boy, y'all.
I'm not rocking with this. But hindsight being what it is, thinking about our conversations about games, I'm like, what has this high graphics fidelity did for my enjoyment? Nothing. It hasn't done anything.
I'll give you this. There's games from 10 plus years ago. Batman Arkham Knight. Graphically, perfect. Amazing. And it looks better than some of the games that are coming out now.
That's what I don't understand.
I'm like, okay, so I'm running at higher frames. I need a better performing GPU to run this. But it looks worse than a game that came out 10 years before.
Yeah, how is this a thing?
Make it make sense.
How is this a thing?
Make it make sense.
How does this compute in the landscape we have now with the technology we have now? You can't square that circle. There's no way you can do it.
Right.
And I think this bleeds into many industries, right? So we could go to film. You know what what was I watching? I was watching something recently and it was talking about a dude who created a movie and he shot this movie on the Creator. The dude who made The Creator. Did you look into how that movie was shot?
Was it made with an iPhone?
No, it wasn't made with an iPhone, but he did it in a fluid way. All of the lighting was lighting he had on his camera. So when he moved his camera, he didn't have to have, it was a Sony camera. It's a good camera, but it wasn't a camera you couldn't buy and buy attachments for. This is the problem he had. So the first movie he made, now I'm butchering the details, but getting the gist of it. The first movie he made, it was a low budget movie. He had the lighting on his camera and
This is the camera Malik has.
Yes, it is. And he was able to do all of his scenes fluidly because the light was on his camera. He adjusted for that. Well, I think he did the recent Godzilla v Kong. I think this was the same dude.
Really?
Yeah, verify that for me. I'm pretty sure it's the same dude because what he was complaining about is when he got on these bigger budget movies, he couldn't move his cameras fluidly because he was like, okay, in order to move to this other angle, I have this camera crew with all of this lighting and all of these things I now have to move around. So it takes me an hour and a half to move to transition for this other scene. So when if I'm not mistaken,
did Rogue One.
Okay, Rogue One.
The Godzilla that came out in 2014.
Okay, yeah. Rogue One. Okay,
Rogue One and Godzilla.
Right.
Yeah, not Godzilla vs. Kong, but the Godzilla that came out 10 years ago.
So that's what he's complaining about. So he said in The Creator, he went back to his original shooting style. And I haven't watched that movie yet. You told me it was good. Several people told me it was a good movie. I'm gonna check it out as soon as I have time.
So off topic, on topic. 28 years later, shot on an iPhone.
Now, caveat to that because I did look into that. So I love that they did that.
But it has a very expensive lens on it.
The attachments that they have are super expensive. It's not just like an iPhone with no attachment. But the guts of what they're shooting is on an iPhone. What does this prove? How much do you really need to produce nowadays? You think about a show like this. It didn't cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars to produce this. Now it's not
probably
perfect.
like $1,000.
And I'm still learning my way around, video production. But on my other podcasts, I'm doing pretty well. I've even had people comment on how well I'm doing. They think I have a team. No, it's just me. It's nobody else. It's just me doing this, and that is it. Point being is there's a lot you can do with less. And I think the fun is taking out when you believe, okay, I need this and I need this and I need that and I need that. I remember seeing some of Drake, not to get off topic, but this is kind of dealing with it. Drake's original music in the early 2000s. A lot of those songs were recorded in a living room. And I'm not telling you they're the greatest songs you've ever heard, but he recorded it in a living room and they sound perfectly fine. And he blew up with these songs. We think we need to throw money at a scenario. And no, what you need is creative people that have given you something that you enjoy.
You know what this also makes me think of?
What's that?
Steve Lacy.
Expound.
You know the guitars for the internet? The one who recorded his whole first album on his iPod Touch?
I didn't think about that. Yep.
And he still records a lot of his stuff on his phone.
I remember seeing that story. Now that you bring that up, I forgot about that. I remember seeing that story and I was like, this dude recorded what on what? Look, we've gotten to, I will say it again. Somebody who's a professional could walk into my studio right now and probably make this equipment, this inexpensive equipment I have, sound like incredible. I'm still learning my way around this stuff. And my audio has gotten better and better over the years of doing this. The point being is I did not have to dump thousands of dollars. I would imagine people who have made very, popular podcasts, some of them haven't really spent much money when they started. PewDiePie. How much money do you think PewDiePie spent when he started? Of course, he probably
$250 on a capture card, and that was it.
He probably spends more now, obviously, because his stuff is great in quality.
No, he doesn't.
See, there you go.
He just makes like just random vlogs and stuff like that now. Like he's pretty much retired. He just makes videos because he enjoys them now.
Right. But there's a lot of people like that proves my point.
Casey Neistat.
His focus on just making enjoyable content is why people come back. I think movie studios can learn this. I think game development companies can learn this. I think comic book creators can learn this. I think one of the biggest problems to ever happen in creative spaces in general,
the money,
is this idea that the money's going to make you good.
I you know me, right? I'm not the biggest pessimist, but I've been around the block a few times at this point. I don't think they're going to do it. I think the powers that be are going to be like, no, we know more than these stupid idiots, and they're going to fail. And you know what? I'm going to laugh.
You're probably right.
It's going to be hilarious.
So what's a bright spot? Is there bright spots? You brought up Marvel Rivals.
But you got to remember that's a Chinese company.
It is a Chinese company. So let's look at the bright spot in, let's say, comic books. You have the Ripperverse. You have
Image Comics is still
Image Comics.
Heat.
Yeah. Ghost Machine Comics, Geiger. I've read Geiger and I'm reading Rook Exodus. Very good books. Ultimate Spider-Man. It's mainstream, but it's good.
Absolute
Batman.
Absolute
is good.
Superman. Absolute Wonder Woman.
Absolute Superman. I read #1. It's not bad. It's not terrible, but there are things in it that I was like, maybe this is just Superman is just not my jam. Just never have been. So that might color my opinion of Superman
and Lois.
The show.
And Lois,
yeah, you brought that up to me.
Is one of the greatest DC superhero shows since the first 3 seasons
of Arrow. Yeah, the first 3 seasons of Arrow was
heat, yeah, and then it just got weird.
They made it campy.
Yeah,
they made it really campy after that.
Same thing with the Flash.
Yeah, it got real. It's like
Supergirl was good for like season 1 and 2, and then it just it tapered off.
Supergirl was good. But I think they had a problem with goofiness that they just they overdid.
But there is goofiness in comic books.
Yes, there is. They overdid the goofiness. It's like, we get it. Goofy exists. You don't have to bombard me with Goofy every 5 seconds.
Well, you know what really popped it off? Legends of Tomorrow.
Legends of Tomorrow went campy on a whole nother level. And I like Legends of Tomorrow. When it first started, I liked it. But I think the issue that the DC the DC television shows, the problem they had was they had a good thing and they didn't know how to extend it, and that good thing was Damien Dark. Damien Dark,
he was a great villain.
He was
a great villain.
And I think they beat the dead horse instead of, let me say this. They should have had Damien Dark as the big bad with his minions, and they should have focused on some of the minions. And then
when they introduced Vandal Savage, they ruined his character.
It got weird.
They ruined his character.
Yeah,
Vandal Savage is like one of the most menacing figures in DC universe, right? He's like.
I wonder if the CW was barred from using Darkseid.
Well, they haven't. They couldn't use Batman.
Yeah. Yes. And I mean that could have been what their undoing was. That Gotham show, that was CW, right? The Gotham show, that was good.
Gotham was decent.
Yeah, Gotham was good.
It got a lot started going on, and I was like,
again, campy.
Yeah.
It happened with them as well. It started as a serious detective show around Gotham.
Ridiculous, really
super
quick.
campy.
Because then even like Jim Gordon's character, I was like, "What? Who is this guy?"
Right.
It's not Jim Gordon.
Right.
That's Joe Gordon.
What was Jada Pinkett's character? I can't remember what her character was, but I remember when
she was in Gotham.
She was in Gotham. You probably forgot about that.
No, I probably didn't get that far.
Yeah. She had a character. I can't remember. What
I only got to season like 3, and then I stopped watching.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. It just who knows what's gonna happen, but. With that said,
I know Titans was good.
Titans was good, but that wasn't what that was. Was that HBO Max? Yeah. That's why
Max.
Yeah, Max. Yeah, Yeah, that's why that was good. I've heard a lot of good things about some shows on HBO Max or Max that I haven't
The
watched yet.
what's the John Cena show? What was it called?
Oh, yeah. The character he had from
Why am I forgetting? Because this show was hilarious.
yeah, I can't remember the name of his character. His character was from the movie with Will Smith.
Oh my
Where he
gosh.
played oh man.
This is gonna bother me.
Oh, the DC movie, Will Smith.
Well,
who else
that
in
was
it?
that was Suicide.
Suicide Squad. But isn't that where John Cena's character came out of?
Yes.
It was the second Suicide Squad movie
Yeah.
he was in?
Peacemaker.
Yeah. Peacemaker, yeah.
Peacemaker. Season 2 is supposed to drop pretty soon.
Yeah.
I don't know what James Gunn is doing with the DC Universe. Creature Commandos was...
Let me tell you
I
what
didn't
James
like it.
Gunn is
I didn't like
already
it.
on my bad side. I think James Gunn, this is my personal opinion, I think James Gunn is sabotaging the Batman.
Yeah.
And I think he's doing it on purpose.
Yeah.
I think he doesn't like it. He doesn't like the fact that the Batman is popular. And this is what I think.
Apparently, it's not going to come out till 2027.
And I think he's doing that on purpose to sink it, because I think if the Batman sequel comes out shortly after the Batman, that movie does even better because of the hype.
Because he's trying to have his own Batman. He's trying to keep the Matt Reeves universe disconnected, which I think is a smart idea, right?
It is. It is.
And I think he wants his Batman to be popular, but it's slim chance.
I'm not going to.
Unless they get the right person writing that movie,
Which they're not going to.
Chance.
They're not going to.
Because Matt Reeves is all around a comic book dude. Like, whenever Paul Denny, I think his name was, and Robert Pattinson were cast for their characters, he told them, here's the comic books you need to read. And they both ended up reading Quarter Vowels, and they talked about it a lot in interviews. I'm like, oh, okay.
This is the right move.
They doing their homework.
Right. This is the right move.
They doing their homework.
Man, Halo creators for the TV show.
Well, there's even stuff. Well, hold on.
Did you hear this?
Because there are some Marvel TV shows where they said they didn't read the comic books either.
Yeah, they look like I'm not absolving Marvel.
Yeah,
I'm not absolving Marvel. They
Daredevil
got
though. If they fumble Daredevil,
they're going to permanently lose fans.
That's it.
People are checking out.
Daredevil was the greatest show that Marvel ever made.
I'll agree.
Ever.
I will agree.
Ever.
I will agree.
The only show I think could maybe be in contention is the animated Spectacular Spider-Man.
Okay.
But
we're talking show though.
But
not
show,
animated.
live action show, Daredevil is the greatest show they have ever made.
Yeah, because if
they fumble this.
Yeah, when you brought up animation, I thought, because X-Men and X-Men 97 was golden. Have you watched X-Men 97?
No.
Oh my
I feel like the only reason is because I never watched the old show, I'm going to be lost.
No, you know enough about the comic books that you won't.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll check it out. I saw people say it was pretty good.
It was like it was an exact continuation.
Yeah, they said they started it at the last episode of the first
continuation. Series. The art style, the voice actors, it was incredible.
Yeah, did they have Steve Bloom come back for Wolverine?
Yes, everybody came. There's one character.
Well, I don't know if he was Wolverine in the original.
There was one character. Who was it? There's one character whose voice actor was different, if I'm not mistaken.
Like somebody was not here anymore.
I can't remember, but they had all of the same voice actors from the original X-Men series.
Steve Bloom. Yeah.
In 19 when did that come out? That was the first season of that X-Men series. Man, was that 94, 95? I can't even remember. Anyway, yes, X-Men 97, incredible. 92. Incredible. X-Men 97 was
well, I saw some of the clips of Magneto, and I'm like, oh, this looks kind of cool.
Yeah, it was good.
Maybe I'll check it out.
But as far as a live action show, you are 100% right. That Daredevil.
Because the only one I would say is in close contention, Punisher.
Ooh,
Punisher.
I'll give you that.
And the first season of Luke Cage. The first season of Luke Cage I thought was good. You might not agree with me. I'm sticking to it.
It was good. It was good, but on par with Daredevil, nah, because it was kind of campy. Even that first season of Luke Cage, season 1 was kind of campy.
Now, what show I wish never, ever had any seasons?
I already know what you're going to say.
Iron Fist.
It was campy from the word go. And I watched it.
No, you know what ruined it? The main actor couldn't act. I'm keeping it real.
Is it
couldn't act.
Is it? I haven't seen him in anything else, or maybe I did and don't remember.
Because he can't act.
Is it that he can't act, or the way they wrote the character was a little too silly?
He can't act.
I'm not.
I'm sticking to my guns.
I'm not gonna say
because
that.
the one character, what's her face? I forget her name.
The only reason I won't say that is because I haven't seen him in anything else, and if I did, I don't remember.
Maybe
so
maybe I'm judging too harshly.
Yeah,
but I didn't finish that show. Well, yeah, I didn't finish season 2. Season 2 to 3 of Jessica Jones, I was disinterested. Her sister became one of the most annoying people.
Did she have a season 3? I don't even remember.
Her sister became one of the most annoying people in season 2, and it just continued on after that. And I'm like, I can't watch this show anymore.
It was pretty hard to watch.
Punisher
was good. Daredevil was just a for the martial arts. It was so good.
The same person that did the choreography there did the choreography in Shang-Chi. Did the choreography in okay, hold on. Shang-Chi was a good movie. Shang-Chi was a good movie. I don't care what nobody says. That movie was good, and anybody hating can shut up. That movie was good.
I agree with you.
That movie was good. That movie received too much hate because it was caught up in the new Marvel phase where everything sucked.
Yeah.
But that movie was good. The martial arts and there's this show. I'm sorry. I'm going off on a tangent because I'm getting pissed off. There's this show called Warrior. Has some of the best martial arts choreography I've ever seen. The same martial arts director for that did the martial arts for Shang-Chi. Did some martial arts help for Daredevil. And when you watch Shang-Chi and you see the fights, you're like, oh, nah. These niggas boxing. They boxing out here. And it's dope. And whenever people had hate towards the movie, I'm like, what?
You know it's real when your voice gets high pitched. That's how you know you.
Because they pissing me off. They pissing me off talking about Shang-Chi is trash. The movie was good.
I thought same thing. I thought the same thing about the Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. I thought that
only thing I'll say is how they introduced MODOK was horrible.
Yeah. MODOK was
I don't know why. I don't know who was in charge of that.
Yeah, completely terrible. But the movie itself, I'm not gonna say it's the dopest movie ever, but I think it was a good movie that got a bad rap.
I think Shang-Chi deserves another movie. I like his character. Similarly, cool guy too.
Here's the problem. This is the problem that Marvel has now found themselves in. This Captain America movie is not getting good press, and I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced that it's getting bad press because it's actually a bad movie. I think it might be getting bad press because we are so used to Marvel pushing wokeness.
So they had to rewrite Harrison Ford's character,
right? So now here's another thing. I don't have a problem with the Falcon transitioning to Captain America.
That's how it happened in the comic books.
Okay, but look, even if it didn't happen that way in the comic books, the way things played out in a movie, right? Sam was close friends with Cap, right? They're really close friends. Cap saw him as the Boy Scout, the honest person that was going to uphold right. So it made sense that, this is the person he would pass the mantle to. He wouldn't pass the mantle to Bucky because Bucky he's like a fractured soul.
Right. He has an inner darkness.
Right. So that's not who you want to pass it to. But Sam is like, you are that upstanding guy.
My problem with the criticisms for the new Captain America is people saying, why is Captain America black? He's Captain. I'm like, look, I hate when they change the race of characters. This happened in the comic books multiple times. When Captain America lost, Super Soldier Serum became old. You know who became Captain America?
But this is not a race swap, though.
I know that, but some people are saying that, and that's what's pissing me off. Right. Because there are legitimate times where it happens, and I'm mad, but this is not one of those times.
Right.
I think it's just one of those things where the writing just sucks.
And Marvel is now scarred by wokeness. So anything that even looks like wokeness now, people are going tenfold.
Nerd Roddick was saying, it was either him or Critical Drinker, where they were talking to people that were working on the set of that movie where they had to do reshoots, and they were writing Harrison Ford's character like a certain politician that people are very contentious about, and they had to rewrite his character recently.
Because now that certain politician has won.
Yeah.
So
they had to rewrite his character and do
good.
a bunch of reshoots.
Yeah.
And I don't know how the reshoots are testing. I want this movie to do good because I rock with the actor for Sam.
Anthony Mackie?
Anthony Mackie. He's a great actor.
I agree.
Funny dude. And I think his character is good.
I think so too.
I think his character is good. But
you see, and we noticed this, You remember the Falcon and the Winter Soldier show? You could tell mid-season they rewrote because of the direction they were going. They were going in that direction of wokeness. The fan backlash was gigantic, and you could tell the shift.
So
You could tell there was a shift.
I think that, look, there's a way you could talk about race in some of these shows without seeming like you're talking down to people.
Right.
Right. And I think that this is going to sound crazy. I think most of these scenes are written by white people who are just really woke and how they write them. Because I'll be watching the scenes and I'm like, this is terrible. This is a terrible depiction of what's going on. The thing about the cops not knowing that was a Falcon, right? That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense at all.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense at all.
Right.
I'm sitting there, I'm like, no. That would be like if that happened to something like Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan. Everybody knows who they are.
Right.
That's not like,
You're not gonna
like
not
this.
know
This dude helped save the world. And I know they made a joke about Ant-Man, but Ant-Man's a relatively newer Avenger. So that makes sense.
Right. No, yeah, it does.
But Sam literally helped with the Civil War thing, the original invasion.
His
with
face
Thanos.
his face would have been everywhere.
That's what I'm saying.
There's no way you don't know.
So I'm like, no. And he was even in the Latveria thing or the thing where Scarlet Witch blew that place up. During Civil War.
Yeah.
He was there for that too. Like I know that's why I was like, okay, they're just trying to put the scene in there just because.
Right.
He's like, yeah, I have to deal with this every day. I'm like, bro.
Yeah, and that's the part of the wokeness that is like you could have had social commentary without doing this.
So the scene about the Captain America before Captain America, that I liked.
I agree.
That I liked.
I agree.
Because that was organic and it was like, okay, this happened in the 60s. This makes sense that something like this would happen.
Everything that was being said made sense. Right. I agree.
So I'm like,
100%.
I'm like, why? Why are they doing this?
Oh, it might be. You might be right, and I wouldn't say it's that it was white people writing these scenes. I don't think. Well,
I'm sticking by that.
No, I'm gonna correct you on that. I don't think you have to be black to write scenes like this.
No, but I think that whenever I see people who are woke that happen to be white,
I think
they talk about these things a certain way that's not realistic.
But I think I don't think it matters whether you're black or white in that instance.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
If you are now, when we say woke, there's two ways you can use this. You can use that word to mean like you're actually aware of what's going on. But when I say woke, I'm talking about this false wokeness where people are actually dead sleep. Like you're not woke, like my guy.
Right.
My guy. To parrot Cam Newton, you're actually dead sleep. You're not woke at all, like at all. And I think it doesn't matter whether you're black or white, whether you're black or white or Hispanic or whatever. If you don't actually understand what's going on and you have a caricature in your mind of what's going on, you write scenes like that.
And maybe that's a misinterpretation on my end, but that's how it felt seeing a lot of those scenes.
Even
at the end of the freaking show, the last scene where they're like on that building and he makes that speech. His speech was good, but there are some parts where I'm like, I don't know. The part I did like about that show was showing the fact that even though Sam didn't have a super soldier serum, he was twice the Captain America as what's that dude's name? I forget his name. You know what I'm talking about? The dude.
The dude that they had.
Yeah, because he was whooping his tail with no super soldier serum.
Oh man, yeah, I can't remember. Why can't I remember this dude's name now? It just completely. If you wouldn't have said it, I would have been able to think about it.
But I think that storyline where they kind of like America was like, well, we kind of want to put him. He's a more marketable face. That makes sense. I didn't have a problem with that storyline.
Right.
I'm like,
no,
this seems like something that would happen.
It made perfect sense.
Right.
He was the guy that fit.
Right.
The mold of the Boy Scout, always doing the right thing, Captain America.
And I think that I didn't have a problem with that storyline particularly because it was like a allegory on things that do happen in this country with race, but it wasn't like, it didn't feel like it was talking down to anybody.
Maybe there needs to be okay, this is something I'll propose and we can end on this and you can share with me what your thoughts are on this. We could have a pause on New Geek stuff for a year, like a reset, a refresh. Just no new video games. Whatever comic book runs are going, let them run out their course. No new comic book runs. No new Star Wars. No new Marvel. No new DC. We're going to have a cleansing. And what I mean by cleansing is we're going to cleanse our palate where nothing is released. And then we're going to come back and reconvene without agendas. I don't want your agenda. Just make good geek stuff. Leave the agendas at the door.
I think that's sort of happening in a sense of like things are failing and people are stopping to pay attention to certain things. So like stuff that naturally is just good is
Forced
getting more.
reset.
Yeah, stuff that's
Yeah.
actually good is getting more attention. I don't know. It's Geek Space is aggravating right now. It's hard to watch.
There's movies. It is very hard.
It's
And
like-
it's hard. I'll be honest with you. I go to the comic book store, and on my Thinking channel, I cover, right now I'm covering comic books and some shows and movies. I'm going to expand and cover more things, but it's primarily comic books. And I'm telling you, I might buy 10 comic books and be able to review one, maybe two. It's either going to be trash art, trash story, not good. The continuity between this book and all of Marvel or DC history doesn't make sense. And I'm just like, bro, what? Like,
What is going
the
on?
comic book industry is being run by amateurs. What is happening right now? And Jim Lee, I love you, man. You're one of the greatest comic book artists of all time. You are trash at running DC, bro. You are absolute dog trash. Like, I do not like any of your direction. If this is your fingerprints, I don't like it. I mean, the absolute stuff is decent.
The Spawn Batman collab
Was great.
Amazing.
Was great. But Jim Lee, what's going on with the DCU and what's going on with DC comic books? What is happening? Marvel, I'm just going to say Disney, you're just trash all the way around. You have no idea what
It
you're doing
seems
with
like
anything.
at least Marvel's going in the right direction, but Star Wars,
No.
they're noticing they need to course correct. But
Yeah.
Star Wars,
I have nothing against
faith.
Kathleen Kennedy because
do.
I don't know her. No, I'm saying this. I'm saying this. Being reasonable. I don't know you as a person. I don't dislike you. As the head of Lucasfilms, you, ma'am, are absolute trash. You are not good at your job. And a reason I think I can say that with a degree of authority is your track record. Everything you touch turns to
it's
stone.
like the opposite of the Midas touch.
You are not good at this. And if Star Wars is one of America's most beloved mythos, most beloved. If I did the job she was doing, I would willingly step down. Like, I have destroyed the faith of the fans and destroyed something they love, and I should not be running this.
That's another one of those situations where I don't think she cares, because there are videos with millions, hundreds of videos with millions of views, expressing how they could change everything and make it better. They're just doing their own thing.
Yeah. And that's sad. So with that said, that's our episode for today.
Pretty long.
Going over the geek space, different things we like, different things we don't. A lot of complaining, but look,
Yeah,
the
there's a lot of
geek space.
complaining.
Look, the geek
Going
space
2025 with some
needs
negativity.
correction, and we're here to talk about the things that need correcting. Maybe somebody in some prominent position will listen.
Now over 45 subscribers.